want to start by saying this. We are extremely disappointed that District Attorney Rosemary Lindbergh could not secure an indictment in this case. We believe the facts of this case justified an indictment. As everyone knows, Ms. Lindbergh released a lot of information yesterday. Among other things, she released a videotape that was capturing the audio of this incident. She also released some statements and the autopsy report. It is our opinion that before this information was released, the excessive force case was strong. Since this information has been released, we believe the excessive force case is exponentially stronger. So today we are releasing one photograph that we have obtained from the scene, and it is to my right. And I will caution everyone, it is a graphic photograph in certain respects because sadly, what you see in the middle here is the body of Nate Sanders Jr., and he is covered at this point with a tarp or with a blanket, and you can see his tennis shoes. The car here is the car that captures the video and audio. In other words, this was the car that the video came from. This is Officer Quintana's car. And what's important to note is the direction it is facing to the Mercedes-Benz. And this is the Mercedes involved in this entire incident. I know this has been belabored, but it's extremely important to mention this again. If this officer had followed protocol and put on his camera, we would have seen exactly what happened. There was a direct view onto the car, and it is a tragedy that he did not turn on his video camera, because the community is now going to have to debate what exactly occurred tonight or that morning based on eyewitness testimony and other evidence. When you listen to the audio, it is clear that the individuals were in the car, as the APD has admitted, that Michael Franklin, the driver, was in Quintana's car in the back here. And Officer Quintana then approaches the Mercedes and opens the door. This occurred at 5:09 a.m. and 2 seconds. The first thing you hear from Officer Quintana is, "Wake up." This is extremely important because this confirms, and it is now undisputed, that Nate Sanders Jr. was asleep in that car. He is trying to wake him up. Furthermore, you do not hear Officer Quintana say, "Wake up, police. Wake up, APD." Officer Quintana never identified himself that night. You then hear on the audio, and District Attorney Lindbergh admitted this, you hear Officer Quintana slapping Nate Sanders Jr. in an attempt to wake him up. After this occurs, seconds later, you hear him say hello. So it's wake up, slap, hello, very quickly. What occurs next is what we will argue are the four most important seconds in this case. Because when you listen to the District Attorney and APD, when they tried to defend this officer's actions, they are saying that the officer engaged into a struggle and things occurred that made him decide to use deadly force. If you listen to the tape, at 4 seconds you hear hello. At 8 seconds you hear 32. When you hear 32, you hear him running back, and then you hear him firing shots. Okay? So the first shot is at 11 seconds. So that is 7 seconds separating the hello to the first shot. If you want to believe the District Attorney's story and APD's story, you would have to believe the following. You would have to believe that in those 4 seconds, Nate Sanders woke up, Nate Sanders grabbed Officer Quintana's wrist, Officer Quintana was able to loosen the hold on the grab, Officer Quintana then grabbed Nate Sanders, a struggle then ensued. At some point during the struggle, Officer Quintana lifted Nate Sanders' shirt and saw a gun allegedly in his waistband, and Nate Sanders then reached for the gun. All of this needs to take place in 4 seconds. And the most important thing about this 4 seconds is it is totally silent when this occurs. If there really was a struggle, why are we not hearing this struggle on the audio tape? In 11 seconds, that is the first bullet. It goes through the glass and hits Nate Sanders. The second bullet is about 2 seconds later, and that is right there, and that misses Nate Sanders. The third bullet is on the right side here, and it is over here, and it hits him. So you have an officer who is running and shooting his gun as he is running. And keep in mind, it is going to be undisputed that 7 seconds before, Nate Sanders was asleep. And I recognize that Chief Acevedo has a big decision to make coming up, but I believe Chief Acevedo needs to explain to this community how a young man has a bullet in the back of his head and how that man posed a threat to the officer who was running away. I believe the chief has a duty to this community to explain if it is proper for a police officer to be running away from a car, shooting a gun like he was in the Wild Wild West, and just shooting and shooting and shooting. 5 shots in 3 seconds. And we are alleging that's excessive force, and we will see what Chief Acevedo says.
What about the talk of the gun and the drugs?
Well, that's an interesting point. As I stated yesterday, the district attorney has stated there's a gun. I have yet to see this gun. And if they have a press conference like yesterday, and they're saying there's this gun, if I was the district attorney, I would release a photo of the gun. And I believe there's a long and shameful history in this county of district attorneys failing to secure indictments in cases like this. So that is why, at the instruction of my clients and on their behalf, we will be filing a formal complaint with the United States Department of Justice in their Civil Rights Division, and we'll be asking them to come investigate this. And we are formally calling on the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Texas to investigate this matter. Civil rights violations are a matter of federal concern, and we believe that based on these facts, the federal government needs to get involved.